Hi guys. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry I'm late. Okay. So let me explain to you what just happened and why I'm late. So I am late. I scheduled this for 6:30. But I am late. There was a crisis and I had to hospitalize somebody today. So unfortunately, that's what took me so long. There's a whole process attached to that, of course. Um, so that's why it took me so long. But I'm so glad to see you guys. Let me go back to the beginning and tell me if you can hear me, okay? Because I'm using my studio microphone today. Let me know if I'm clear and if you can hear me or if there's anything going on that's wonky. I heard a lot of people are having issues with live recently, so I'm not I'm not any. Oh, awesome. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you. I'm not any different, right? So we may have a little bit of issues with live tonight. So I'm just throwing that out there. Hopefully not. All right. So let me go back to oh my lord, the very beginning and just say hello to all of you. So hello. Let me fix my camera, guys. Hold on. So hello, Courtney Frazier. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. Hello, UNA. Welcome to the chat. Glad to see you as well. Let me keep going. Cheers, Jubilee, an empowered woman. Hello, welcome to the chat. Emily Vay, hello, welcome. Dragon Man Sasson, hello, happy Friday to you as well. I'm so glad it's Friday, let me tell you. Oh my God, it's been such a week for me. Fairy Girl with the dabs, hello, welcome to the chat. Glad to see you as well. Tarina Cloud, hopefully I have that correct. Welcome as well. Paige Matodi, welcome to the chat. I'm going to say love JJ 1814. Hello, welcome to the chat and welcome to the channel. You are a new subscriber. I don't remember seeing you, so welcome. Glad you're here. Awake and peaceful. Hello, welcome to the chat. Just welcome to all of you. There's so many of you in the chat box. So the new people that sign on, I'm going to be sure to say hello to you. Hello, Rad Angel. Welcome to the chat as well. Deb, I see you. Hello, welcome. Okay, so awesome. Thank you, Deb, saying voice is great. Thank you so much. I always get this so messed up. This is amethyst woman. Hopefully that's correct. Hello, welcome to the chat. Thank you for letting me know my mic is good. So today's live chat, or I should say evening live chat, is really a highly requested chat. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to cover this topic because we've been covering so many other things. But I just kind of blatantly put it out there that there are some people that have, this question about their parent of what is wrong with you, and that's just the honest to God reality for most of my clients. They come into my office and the first thing that they say to me is, I am here for counseling because of my parents. And then that's when we get into the details. And unfortunately, some of the details are just shocking because some of these parents, and these are the parents that I'm going to be talking about tonight in tonight's live, we're going to wrap up at 7:30. These are parents who have what is known as a character pathology, and that is basically a clinical way of saying that their personality is messed up. Okay. And we're not just talking about a parent who has a difficult temperament, a difficult personality. We're not talking about a parent who's just a little edgy some days, other days that, they're not feeling so well. So they're going to be cranky. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a lifelong pervasive developmental pattern of behavior that has influenced every single thing, including their parenting relationship with you. So, I figured we might as well just jump into this conversation, and I might as well do a live chat. Why not, right? You guys are asking about this. So let me start with some of the labels that we affix to parents who have a character pathology, because we don't know what else to do, right? Sometimes, we're so involved emotionally with that family member, that parent, that we don't have the ability to be objective and step aside and say, wait a minute, this is a clinical issue here, right? Which is why it's helpful sometimes to have that clinician involved, because then you have some objectivity, right? So here's the labels that we affix to these kind of parents. The first one is unavailable parent. So the unavailable parent, we sometimes call them unavailable, right? They're emotionally, psychologically, and sometimes literally unavailable. They're working so much that you don't exist. They're engaging in other areas of life so much that you don't exist, right? But then we also have that label of emotionally detached, right? It's that parent who has you, they raise you, they seem to understand their role as a parent, but then somehow they're emotionally unavailable to you, right? They're not there when you need their comfort. They're not there when you need their advice. They're not there when you have difficulties growing up or in your adult life, right? You don't have the kind of parent who is available to you when you need them emotionally and psychologically, right? Emotionally detached parents may also be there physically, but they are not there emotionally and psychologically. And that is just as tormenting, right? The other label that we tend to kind of affix to these kind of parents would be, self-absorbed and arrogant, or sometimes we even say narcissistic, because that's all we know, right? And so these kind of parents kind of, they kind of sometimes get away free with their uninvolvement in their children's life because they may look like they are present. Even the self-absorbed parent, they're over there getting their nails done, or dad's over there shining up his vehicle, right? Putting some wax on his wheels over there. But he'll come up and sit and talk to us at dinner time, and then he'll disappear again, right? That's kind of like the self-absorbed dad. He's there doing his own thing, and he doesn't really care to be bothered with you. So those are the labels that we use. And sometimes when we're extraordinarily angry and we don't know what to say, then we call a parent narcissistic, borderline, or sometimes we even go so far as to say they're sociopathic or psychopathic, right? Because that's the only thing that we know to label them as. But there are some parents who just strictly don't fall into those neat categories, right? And so that's where understanding character pathology comes in, because we need to understand what's wrong here. You may not neatly fit into the category of a narcissist or a sociopath or a psychopath. You may even fall into the category of someone with borderline personality disorder and bipolar. So like, how do I understand you? And so when I meet with clients who are struggling with their parents, I say, look, let's label them under character pathology. We don't know what it is, but let's just look at the character. Let's look at their values. Let's look at their ethics. Let's look at the track record, the pattern behavior over a long period of time, and let's characterize it that way. Okay. So let me just highlight some research, and I'm going to post some in the description box for those of you who'd like to kind of fact check. There has been some research done on what's known as positive parenting. Now, positive parenting is the idea that I'm going to show my child love, warmth, compassion, kindness, inclusivity. I'm going to do all I can to make sure that we feel emotionally equal in a relationship. There will be no corporal punishment. There will be no abuse. There will be, no behaviors, parental behaviors that's going to intentionally impact my child in a negative way. So research suggests that parents who have kind of this sensitivity needed to be a positive parent, right? They're compassionate, they're loving, they're engaging. Those kind of parents tend to fare better in the long run with their children than parents who are strictly cold and have a character pathology. So there's some research that really supports the idea that if you don't have a parent that has any kind of emotional sensitivity towards you, love, warmth, compassion, then your road with them is going to be extraordinarily difficult. And you're going to have a hard time connecting with this particular parent over time. So you can almost see what's ahead if you look at newborn babies and how those babies are attaching to the parent. And that becomes attachment theory. Attachment theory. I always say it twice just in case you guys missed it. So that attachment theory really shines a light on what is that infant mother, infant father relationship like? Because that's going to kind of dictate what the rest of that relationship is going to be like. So I'll post that research study in the description box for you. All right, let me look at the chat box and then we're going to go ahead and jump into some of these behaviors that you may have seen in your own parent. Okay, so we're going to get there in about a minute or two. Let me look at the chat box here because you guys are just talking away. My goodness. All right, hold on. Hold on, we're gonna go all the way back. So, okay, so we have hello, Cheryl. Welcome to the chat. Oh God, I'm losing something. Hi, Cheryl. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you as well. Um, Pop Not Soda. Hello. Oh my God, I love that screen name. Welcome to the chat. Glad to see you as well. August Butterfly, hello. Yes. Thank you so much. I'm feeling a little bit better, but let me just tell you, I'm like nasally. My sore throat is like horrible. And then I've got pain in my chest here from coughing all day, but we're going to make it. And, you know, my brother, I'm going to show you this just to give you a mental break. He said, go get some kombucha. And I read on here that there's like 0.0.1 whatever ounce of alcohol. And I'm like, what the heck? I don't drink. Okay. I really don't. And so my brother's like, oh, come on, suck it up. You know, it's just kombucha. So that's kind of helping me a little bit. Thank you for that. I appreciate that thoughtfulness. Thank you. Okay, so let me find. Yeah. So I'm going to start here with cherries. Oh, hi, Doritos, Locos, Tacos. I probably said it all wrong. Welcome to the chat. I just saw you. Knowledge is power. Hello. Welcome to the chat. Glad to have you as well. Cherries Jubilee says, I have heard people say they mourn the parent you wish you had. So don't be surprised. Just grieve. Yeah. So let me just kind of piggyback on that, Cherries Jubilee. I asked that question to my mom about 2 years ago. My wonderful grandmother passed away 2 years ago. It was 2020. Well, maybe I should say 3 years ago. It feels like it was just recent, you know. But she passed away in 2020, not from COVID, but from just complications. She was 78 years old. And my mom really took it really, really hard. I remember growing up with a mom, though, and a grandmother who had a really tricky and checkered relationship. And talk about a character pathology. I think my grandmother had a pretty interesting character, but then she also struggled with alcoholism when she was younger, trying to raise my mom. And so they had a really difficult relationship where they kind of bumped heads and there was some friction, you know. And so when she left here, and even over the years, when I would see them fight or not talk to each other for months or weeks or whatever, I would say, Mom, my mom would cry sometimes, or she would say, you know, I really miss talking to Mama. That's what she would call her. And as a young child, maybe about 12, 13, I was already a therapist at heart. I remember saying to my mom, Cherries Jubilee, and for the rest of you, I remember saying, Mom, are you crying because of what happened between you and Guy? Or are you just crying because you wish you had a certain kind of a mom that you don't really have? And I remember my mom like sitting on the couch and she's like, what kind of child did I bring into this world? You know, she was like, I dropped out of therapy months ago. Who the heck is this? Um, and so you're right. Like, I think Trace Jubilee, we can grieve the parents that we wished we had. We're not really grieving that particular parent. And that's what happens in situations where there's child abuse, where there's adult child abuse. You kind of, you know, there's two parts of you. We can call it cognitive dissonance. You know that there's a mean, evil parent under there somewhere, but on the flip side of that, you still love that parent. And it's so hard for you to marry those two ideas of the desire that you have for that good parent and the mean parent, some of the nice traits of that good parent and the mean parent. You can't marry all of that. So typically we say the heck with the bad part and we just grab onto that good part. And sometimes in doing so, we kind of create this fantasy around this parent, right? And you don't know why you're grieving, but you're grieving. And sometimes that grief is the result of desiring something you never really had. Now, if your parent passes away or they die, you may find yourself grieving and you may not understand why, because that parent may have not ever been a parent to you, right? But you're still grieving. For the most part, again, you might want to look at the fact that maybe I'm not grieving that particular person, but I'm grieving what that person represented, which is a parent that I never had, right? So that's something to kind of think about. I just want to put that out there because I think a lot of people go through that and it's just really hard for them to process that, you know? Excuse me, my Tarina Cloud. I'm sorry, I was going to look at somebody else. Tarina Cloud says, my parent has perfected looking like she was present. My parent has perfected looking like she was present. A lot of parents who are unhealthy, unstable, uninvolved, emotionally detached with the character pathology do. Part of their character pathology, meaning part of their character illness is that they look the part. They look the part. And so it's easy to look the part. It's harder to actually be it. And I always say that to my clients. It's harder to be the parent. It's easier to look like it. So what do, right? It's easier to look like a parent. So they act like a parent. They look like a parent. That's what they do best. Doritos Locust Tacos says, I'm in no contact with my narc mom, but I am beginning to realize my dad engages in emotional incest. He's probably going to get cut off too. My goodness. Well, I mean, if you have to do it, then you have to do it, right? It's not something I'm sure that you want to do. But if it's unhealthy and it's a pretty checker dynamic, then I would do that too, especially if dad plays a role that's unhealthy. Usually, if you have one parent that's a narcissist, and this is not all parents, so I don't want you guys to take this as all parents, but sometimes if you have a parent that's a narcissist, the other parent either becomes a victim to that narcissistic parent, or they get up under their way of being and thinking and seeing the world that they too become a narcissist. And so you're up against really two narcissists, but you may be dealing with, and I see this a lot in my private practice, you may be dealing with one parent who's a covert narcissist, meaning they don't look like a narcissist, but underneath they are, right? Underneath the tears, underneath the what appears to be a excuse me, what appears to be a calm resolve, right? They're narcissistic. And the other parent may be an overt narcissist, meaning it's clear they're a narcissist. So those differences matter. It's complicated, but it matters. So I don't blame you if you have to go through that. Doritos Locust Tacos. I'm going to perfect your name one day. Sheer Heffen. Hello, welcome to the chat. Glad to have you here. Says, I had terrible parenting. Thought I did good with my happy, healthy children. So then state picked up on abusing me. Dynamics can grow better, focus and healing and let go. Easier said than done. Okay, I totally am not connecting those dots, and it's probably not you, Sheer. It's probably me. Oh, she says, I had terrible parenting, period. Thought I did good with my happy, healthy children, period. So then the state picked up on abusing me. Dynamics can grow better, focus and healing and let go. Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. I think I do. Sometimes the way that these things come through is a little confusing, so forgive me. Okay, all right, let's jump into the content. Deb, I'm going to read this really quickly, guys. Deb says, I'm working hard on repairing the difficult relationship my daughter and I have. Very good. Sometimes, and I think you may have mentioned this before, Deb, sometimes, in sharing your own story, sometimes there's a situation where there's intergenerational unhealthy parenting trauma. So it's intergenerational trauma in terms of the parents not doing well in the family system. That's what I'll say. So your parent may have not been healthy for you, and then your own relationship with your daughter may be a little bit rocky. So I want to make sure I put that out there as well, that there could be some intergenerational parental trauma, which is why unhealthy parenting may exist in your family for many generations. So that's important to kind of keep in mind. All right, let's jump into this. Okay, guys. So let's talk about the character pathology I'm talking about here and what's going on with these particular parents. So, I think it's important to point out that a mother, a father, both parents, whatever, they could have this underlining, unbridled arrogance, right? And those kind of parents we may categorize as a narcissist. They're very arrogant, they're pompous, they're prideful, they don't really care to get to know you. They're kind of distant from you, they're emotionally detached. We could put them under the heading of a narcissist, okay? So let's go forth in this chat, kind of looking at this as a parent who could be considered a narcissist. There's some kind of character pathology here, and we don't have a label, but we're going to say maybe they're narcissistic, right? So the first kind of parent that I think that you are likely to see, and research suggests that these kind of parents exist under the category of a narcissist. It's the kind of parent that has this covert arrogance, and they lack what is called the triple. Well, maybe I'll put it this way: they show or they display what's called the triple E, and that is no empathy, that is entitlement, and exploitation. So that's why it's called triple E. There's no empathy, there's a sense of entitlement, and there's exploitation. So these kind of parents really are detached from you because they don't have the ability to kind of put themselves in your shoes. So that empathy is gone, that what we call theory of mind, that ability to say, what would I feel like if I were on this side of the fence? What would I be thinking, feeling? What would be my issue here? How can I comfort my adult child, my young child? How can I be that kind of parent that they need, right? They can't do that because they don't have that empathy. But then there's also this sense of entitlement. Excuse me. And that sense of entitlement kind of pushes you out of the way as a child, as the adult child, and it kind of puts them center stage, right? Because they feel like they're entitled to all of the attention. So you're not going to get the attention, you're not going to get the emotional support, psychological support, and sometimes literal support, financial, whatever that you need, because they have an inbred sense of entitlement. But then, there's also that exploitation piece, and that's where emotional incest kind of comes in, right? You are the parentified child, you're the surrogate wife or husband, excuse me, or you play some kind of role in that relationship with your parent, right? So no empathy, a sense of entitlement, and exploitation. The other thing too is these kind of parents, they have a hard time shifting from what we call content to process or content to emotion. So these kind of parents may actually listen to you, right? They may actually listen to your needs. They may go to therapy with you. They may try to understand where you're coming from, but they have no ability to transition from what they've heard to doing. They don't have the capability to doing anything that's emotional or psychological or connecting to you, right? So they can't shift again from content, maybe what you're telling them, to actually doing. And there's a term for this. Let me grab a tissue, guys. There's a term for this. Excuse me. And that term is called cognitive empathy. Cognitive empathy. And that's when you can cognitively understand where somebody might be coming from. So your parent with the character pathology, something's wrong with their character, the way that they engage with you, your parent may understand what you're saying. They may understand how you're feeling cognitively, but they have absolutely no ability to emotionally understand where you're coming from. So cognitive empathy, or they can't shift from content to process or content to emotion. They also have this crippling sense of entitlement. So, an example of this might be, let's say you go to your mom, who's a narcissist, and you want to talk about your failing marriage. You're having a really hard time. Your marriage is failing. Your kids are just out of control. You don't know what to do to help your family. You go to your mom. You sit down. You talk to her, and you're trying to get across to her what you're feeling, but she cuts you off. She talks all over you. She interrupts your train of thought. You can never really get a full sentence out. It's almost like they're not listening to you. They're not really holding on to what you're saying because they have this crippling, and I call it crippling, sense of entitlement. It's if they are not the center of attention, if they are not getting their needs met, right, despite what you're going through, if they're not getting their needs met, right, then nothing you're saying really matters to them. They could care less. They don't really care about what you have to say. They just want to either one up you. Sometimes the parent will do that. Well, when I was married, this happened. Or sometimes they will make you feel like your situation isn't as important. They may say something like, well, Beth over there had an even worse kind of a situation. I think you're pretty blessed, right? The whole conversation may be riddled with put downs and condescending tone and gaslighting, right? Kind of making you feel like you're the one who's blowing things out of proportion and not feeling validated in any way, right? That's kind of what that dynamic would be. So it's a crippling sense of entitlement. If they are not in control, if they are not in the driver's seat, forget it. Whatever you're saying to them doesn't really matter. They don't care to get to know you, you know? I also think too that they kind of waver between aloof and present. These kind of parents with the character pathology, they're aloof. They're not attached. They kind of, you almost feel like their mind is always over there, or you're talking to them and they're not really mentally connecting to what you're saying. It's like they're distracted and you're just talking or trying to get your emotions across, or maybe you've taken them to your therapist and you're trying to engage that parent in therapy with you. But why, a therapist sitting in a room is not going to even change the dynamic, right? So the question for me is always, why even bring this kind of parent to therapy? Because they waver between looking like they get you and just being aloof on this side. It's like a pendulum. Maybe in the moment at home, it looked like you guys could go to therapy, or it looked like you guys could have a mediator and get somewhere. But now your parents over here on the aloof side of the spectrum, and they're very detached. So you might want to keep that in mind as well, that this small category of parents who have a character pathology, some kind of personality issue, they can come across as aloof. They're just completely detached from you, from your needs, from your thoughts, what you're saying, from the moment. It's just not there. And, I've seen basically for the 14 years of my career, I've seen these kind of parents kind of, curate or create or design this kind of identity that is false. And it's an identity that's based on the expectations of the outside world, social expectations, right? What parent wants to look to the outside world, especially a narcissistic parent? What parent wants to look to the outside world as if they are incompetent, as if they don't understand their children, as if they are failing parents, as if they are terrible parents, right? No parent, even a narcissistic parent, wants to look that way. So, they kind of curate or create again or design this kind of identity that is based on social expectation of them. And it's a false one, because you never get the benefit of an intuned, attuned, involved parent. They just design and create this identity to fit the social expectation of the world. That's how they operate. All right, guys, let me go to the comment box. I'm going to take like a little bit of a breather here and kind of drink something here. So let's see what everybody is seeing. All right. Whoops. I don't want to hit the wrong button like I always do. Y'all's precious jewel. Hello. Welcome to the chat. Glad to see you. I didn't see you there and I skipped you earlier. I apologize for that. Come on, YouTube. Okay, so let's go with I want to make sure I'm following. Awake and Peaceful says, I get a fake vibe from her when she used to try to be sensitive. It's weird and it doesn't give genuine. So Awake and Peaceful is talking about their parent. Hold on, guys. I'm sorry. I think we can go back to what I just said to kind of help us understand that what you're saying makes a lot of sense, and it clicks into what I just said, which is that these kind of parents kind of design an identity, right? So Awake and Peaceful, that's probably why you felt this was kind of fake, that something's false. There's something here not attaching very well. And that's because these kind of parents are fake, right? They design their identity again based on social standards. They don't design their identity based on what they've been called to do, which is be that parent, right? I had a colleague one time, and I don't even know if this is clinically appropriate, probably not. I had a colleague once say that they deal with a lot of narcissistic parents, and and I remember this female colleague saying, you know what, these kind of parents are like baby machines. You know, they just have one baby or one child after the next, but they never do anything for the benefit of their child. It's all about them, right? I stay with my husband who's narcissistic and abusive because of me, not them. You know, I am a good parent to the outside world, not because of my children, but because of me again, right? I, line up all these vacations for us to go on, not for the children, but for me, because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like a good parent. It makes me fit that mold of what a good parent is, you know? So these kind of parents are ingenuine. And this is how they operate. They can't be anything other than ingenuine. So that's just how it is, and that's the sad part. And let me also highlight too that therapy for these kind of parents is not impossible, but it can be difficult based on who you see. Right? You don't want to go to a trauma therapist to try to deal with a parent who has a character pathology or some kind of personality issue that's never going to change, or maybe really difficult to change because that therapist is not going to understand what they need to understand. You want to go to a therapist, or you want to go to somebody who gets character pathology, narcissism, sociopathy, that kind of thing, so that you can navigate those waters a little differently. Not all therapists are trained to treat these kind of situations, so you want to kind of keep that in mind as well. Okay, thank you so much. Awake and Peaceful says, hope you feel better, Tam. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Oh man, Paige Matodi says the sober life. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's personal and professional reasons for that. So I'll just leave it at that. I still feel guilty though, just drinking 0.01% of alcohol. Let me tell you. A Methodist woman says, I spent the first month of my life with my grandmother's dad. Oh, my grandmother. Dad was sick, contagious. I attached to her, then taken home. Yeah, sometimes that can be traumatic, right? You have a situation where you ended up with your grandparents, and now you're taken to go live with your dad and your mom. That could be a little bit traumatic for sure. Paige Matodi says kombucha doesn't count. I mean, in my book, it does, Paige. I'm just saying. I had a kid come in today. I don't work on Fridays. I try not to. And the kid was like, Miss Timmer, you drink alcohol? And I'm like, oh, God. Now watch her go home and tell her mother, my therapist had alcohol in the office. I mean, literally, these kids are like, they're not as innocent as they used to be when I was growing up. All right. Hold on, guys. I want to make sure I don't delete any comments. My Lord, I cannot stand YouTube's chat box. I'm going to show you how this goes on my side of things one day so you can see. I swear I'm not incompetent with YouTube. It's just, it is so confusing. August Butterfly says, I do not understand why toxic parents act surprised when the child grows up and creates distance from them. They thought the child would accept the toxic traits forever. Really? My situation right now. Well, that's a fantastic comment. And let me just tackle that for a second. I think sometimes these kind of parents don't see themselves. So we may be dealing with a category of parents who have no self-awareness. They have absolutely no self-awareness. There's nothing to show them that they're in the wrong. When I have parents that have absolutely no self-awareness, I'm the kind of therapist that'll make sure you gain that self-awareness, right? So I don't sit there and say yes, yes, see you next session. I'm going to tell you, you were pretty detached during that situation right there, and I don't really like how you held that conversation. The way that I experienced it was, and then I give them everything that they need to know because they don't have self-awareness. So for you, August Butterfly, I think these kind of parents may believe that you're going to put up with this toxicity because they don't have that self-awareness, right? You also may be dealing with a narcissistic parent who doesn't believe that they are toxic, right? You have to consider the narcissistic parents. They have this false belief about who they are on the inside. Not all of them, but most of them, because some of them are strictly insecure. Others have this false built up sense of self, and they think they're wonderful parents, right? And so while you may see that toxicity, they don't see it. They think they're great. So keep that in mind. So It's not necessarily as simple as saying, did they think we would stick around for this? Some do. Some think they're wonderful parents, and they're not going to be wrong. Even if the therapist tells them you're wrong, they're not going to be wrong. That's not how they see themselves through their own false glasses. They have their own way that they see themselves. Sometimes too. They have this deep emotional need to be something that they aren't. So, they kind of maneuver and manipulate and curate their own identity, like I said earlier. And so they drink that false developed identity up, and they really begin to believe their own lies, some of them. So there's many ways we can flip that August butterfly. Deb said, that is exactly what I was grieving. It was the parents I wished I'd had, and that, in fact, I had none. No, no nurturing, no mentoring. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Deb. That's a hard one. That's a hard one for sure. Hello, L Witherspoon. Welcome to the chat. I have my like camera over here, so I'm like so used to looking at my camera. My goodness, over this way, not here. But hi, L Witherspoon. Welcome to the chat. Glad to have you. Um, excuse me. I will be signing off in a little bit here. We're gonna go back into the content, then I'll sign off, and then I have a video coming up on Sunday, so stay tuned for that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm agreeing with some of you. Yep. Yep. Sheer Hafen says a vulnerable narcissist. A vulnerable narcissist is interesting because they come across as really down on themselves and insecure and afraid and detached from confidence. That sometimes those vulnerable narcissists can go into a therapist's office and they're like, I'm just depressed, I'm down on myself. They may have really poor hygiene. They may have the affect or the facial structure or the facial look of somebody who's depressed. But just you wait, because they're going to come across as the narcissist they are. It's hidden under the surface. An example of this would be a client that I had maybe, excuse me, I'm going to say maybe um, 5 years ago. And it was a dad. He came in, he looked really depressed. He hadn't shaved in months. So he had all this like grizzly beard. His hair got really long. He was just depressed looking, and he would wear like really what's the word I'm looking for? He would wear like clothing that a college student would wear when they don't really care, like holes in their t-shirts, jeans that were cut at the bottom, like flip-flops, even in the winter. Like he looked like he didn't care, like he was depressed. But let me tell you, it was the 10th session, because it took me some time to figure him out. I'm going to be honest. I wasn't as experienced then as I am now. And he sat down and he cried, and he really played the victim card, and he really just like the harp was being played or the violin every session. And little by little, and you want to look at this in case this is a parent that you have, little by little, I started to have this internal sense that I shouldn't have been compassionate. I shouldn't have been feeling sorry for him. And I remember really grappling with this with my supervisor at the time, because I couldn't understand why in the first 5 sessions I felt so emotionally just like just disrupted for him. I was sad for him. He almost had me in tears the first session. All his trauma history, his storyline, like he really had me going there for the first 5 sessions. But by the sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, and 10th session, let me tell you, I got my wits about me, because I realized this is a narcissist, and he's a vulnerable narcissist, because here's what he does. He plays the victim card. He has developed an identity around being the victim. And if he's not crying and getting attention, if he's not throwing himself on the floor in despair, threatening suicide, and if he's not taking up the whole 60 minutes of our session crying and talking about everybody in the world who has done him wrong, if he's not doing that, he's fine. And so what I realized is this is a vulnerable narcissist. He has a really good way of getting you and making you think that he's depressed, making you think he's vulnerable, making you think he doesn't have the skills to harm anybody. But where the narcissism came in at was he lived the identity of a victim, and his narcissistic desire was to always get into the hearts and the minds of other people by playing that victim card. And that is his absolute weapon every single time. And so he played that role with his own children. He played it with me. He played it with therapists prior to me. And so he never got better. And he never got better because he was a narcissist. He wasn't getting the complete treatment that he needed. So you may want to ask yourself, is that the kind of parent that I have? Do they kind of tell this sob story everywhere they go? And is their narcissistic desire to be the center of attention with that victim story? You might want to ask yourself that. It took me a few sessions before I could catch that. That's for sure. L. Witherspoon says, your videos almost bring me to tears, not because I'm angry or bitter in any way, but because it causes me to be in touch with the things that I buried that need to be addressed. And for that, I'm grateful. Wow. Oh my God, L. Witherspoon, that's such a powerful, powerful comment. Thank you so much for that. I most definitely don't want to bring you to tears, but it sounds like that's kind of like a revelational period for you when you watch my videos. So I'm glad that that's happening for you, because it may be the kind of relief and the release that you need to kind of work through some of this. So very, very, very glad. I also, let me address flow. Okay. I'm going to address flow and then I'm going to silence them because they're not being good. I'm going to put this person in timeout. So Flo says this kind of video is toxic. Okay. So here's how I'm going to deal with this one. And I'm going to mention this. Parents are different. Okay. And I want to address this because I want to make sure that I'm being very honest and very transparent. I think that there are really wonderful parents. I have one. My mom is wonderful. She's fantastic. She's selfless. She's dedicated. She's loving. She's genuine. And I think there are a lot of other good parents in the world. Most of the parents in my practice are wonderful that bring their kids here. But there's that percentage of parents on the flip side who are very toxic. They're very unhealthy. They're very dysfunctional and very narcissistic and selfish. And any and everything that they do is for their benefit and not their child's benefit. And these kind of kids who often do not have an advocate grow up and become adults. Most likely those of you who are watching this live chat, they become adults who are struggling and trying to conceptualize what kind of parent they had growing up. Right. So it's important that we do address these kind of situations and these kind of experiences because they are rarely talked about. And I know those of you who are watching this live chat will probably agree with that. But I did want to address that because I think there are some people who may be a toxic parent themselves watching and they're like, man, she's like making us look really bad. Well, I got to point you out. I'm sorry. I'm not here to make. I'm here to say this is where you went wrong. And unfortunately, your adult child is suffering as a result. So thought I would point that out. I think that's important for me to do so. All right, let's go back to the content, guys, and then we're going to wrap up because I'm way over time like I always am. I think too, and let me fix my cord. Let me hook up my charger before this gets started. I think too, we left off at this kind of curated or developed sense of self. We also talked about how selfish these kind of parents are, narcissistic that they could be. So let me throw into the mix here this embedded defense system. I think these kind of parents, and mainly the narcissistic parents, they have an embedded defense system. It's this defense series of defense mechanisms that they have kind of ingested or digested. And so everything they do is out of a defense. So, maybe you go to your parent and you say, you know what, you were not the parent that I needed growing up. You abused me, you hit me, you talked bad to me, you minimized me, you treated me all kind of ways. And I just didn't feel loved by you, right? Let's say you say this to your parent. Well, an embedded defense mechanism might be something like, I did the best I could. What are you talking about? Some parents throw their kids in a garbage barrel, or some parents throw their kids in a dumpster and keep going or give them up for adoption. I didn't do that to you. So I'm a really good parent. I think I put my heart out there. Or you can get the parent that says, I tried my best. I did the best that I could with what I had, right? Defense mechanism. There's this embedded series of defense mechanisms with these kind of parents. They sometimes can recognize that they are toxic. They recognize that some of these parents, and the way that they kind of defend themselves is to just throw up those embedded defense mechanisms. They throw one up, and then they throw another up until they can't do it anymore. Excuse me. And I would try to post maybe an article in the description box after this live chat, where I can kind of identify for you the kind of defense mechanisms that these kind of parents tend to engage in. They also lead a life that is characterized by performance only. There's no emotion, there's no thought process, there's no plan, there's no anything. Everything is based on their performance, meaning they are really wrapped around how you perform. They're really wrapped around how good you make them look. Maybe growing up, you needed to do a lot of performing. Maybe you were in sports all the time or in plays all the time, or you needed to get all A's. Don't get a B, you need to get all A's, right? Maybe the parent that you had just needed you to get a good job or graduate from college. Everything is based on performance. There's no love, there's no compassion, there's no connection, there's no anything that draws you two together as child and parent. It's all about performance. And that can last up into adulthood too, right? Because these kind of parents will never change, most of them. So they're looking at you to perform well, right? Perform in your marriage, perform by raising your kids well. They live their life based on performance. That's just who they are. And I also think, that they kind of wear this I'm misunderstood hat all the time. Again, that's another defense mechanism, that misunderstood hat. I'm misunderstood. I didn't mean it that way. You took it the wrong way. That's not how I raised you. No, no, no. Aunt Susu over there said I raised you very well, right? No, that's not it at all. That's not what I meant, And you'll see that over time, this kind of parent just kind of walks around with this tag or this hat of I'm misunderstood. I'm the misunderstood parent. You don't understand me. When the reality is most likely you do. Most likely you do. I also think too that these kind of parents like a sense of power and control. So even as an adult child, they still have to be in control. They still have to control you. They still have to control your emotions, your thoughts, your behaviors. So they may belittle you. They may minimize you. They may condescend. They may talk about your children, talk about your marriage, talk about the weight you've gained, talk about how you look, talk about how you used to look compared to now. Whatever they can do to put you back in that state of being minimized and beneath them, they will do. And this is mainly the narcissistic parent. Good parents or parents who mean well are not going to do that. They might unintentionally, but they're not using it as a weapon. The parents I'm talking about in this live chat use these things as a weapon. All right, guys, I think we covered most of it. Now, in the video coming up on Sunday, I'm going to give you some tips on how to marriage. I need to go home. How to manage these kind of parents and how to manage your own thoughts and emotions around these kind of parents. Okay, so stay tuned for my video Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, I'm going back to the chat box. Yeah, Tarina Cloud says the intergenerational trauma is running strong in my family. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Paige. Paige says, at Flo, who is the person I just addressed, said, these videos help a lot of us. And Tamara is incredibly knowledgeable and kind. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I love that. Thank you. Excuse me. I do think these videos can be helpful for those of you who are just like sitting and scratching your head and wondering, like, what kind of parent did I have, right? Okay, so she says, if these messages don't resonate with you, that is okay for someone else. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes YouTube just doesn't reach that broad audience. And sometimes, sign off if it doesn't mesh with you, right? Y'all's Prestige Jewel says, my mom lacks empathy. Oh my God, she doesn't consider anyone's feelings but hers. Shaking my head. Yeah, absolutely. Tarina Cloud says, I feel like I learned lack of empathy from my narc parents. I have to work hard to be selfish and think of others. Yeah. Yeah. And let me just kind of piggyback on that one a little bit, Tarina Cloud, that sometimes you, as the healthier personality, you don't have a character pathology. You can develop over time learned behavior, right? And that's why living under a narcissistic parent or a parent with personality challenges or issues or just oddities can be really difficult and harmful to a child, because children are like sponges. That's why I love them so much. They're like sponges, they soak up what's in their environment. They are born with no prejudice, born with no discrimination in their heart, born with no racism in their heart and mind, born with no preconceived notions about anything. They are almost like a blank slate, right? And they're so like loving and wonderful because of that. And so if you're an innocent child like that and you're growing up under a narcissistic parent, you're most likely going to kind of take in some of those traits. And so it doesn't mean that you're a narcissist. It just means that you've been vulnerable to a certain set of behaviors and you're going to have to learn to undo them. The good part is some research does suggest that if you do develop some narcissistic traits because of your environment, and maybe some genetic makeup there that's making you also predisposed to becoming a narcissist, you can still kind of undo the damage over time. So there's definitely some hope there. Deb says, I knew my dad was emotionally abusive and my mom was unemotional, probably chronic PTSD. Yep. Started therapy at 20 and still messed up my kid. Oh, geez. Well, I wish life were just that simple where we could say, go to therapy, get healed, do better. But it's so rocky, right? And along the way, I'm sure there were bumps and, corners you had to go around and places you had to drive over, that just made life really difficult for you. So I hope that you're not blaming yourself for everything, Deb. Here, Hafen says, my kids were happy and taken care of, but no family visited, only to beat me. The state thought I was weird because no visitors. I could comment on that. I think I'm going to wait on that one. I think I'm going to wait on that one. SH, hello, welcome to the chat. I'm signing off in like 2 minutes. Says, I thought my dad was the healthier of the two. Found out way late that he provokes, plays others against each other. The list goes on. Thank you, Tamara. That describes it. Yes, you're welcome. The three E's, I think that's what you meant. I think says, I thank you, Tamara. That describes it. Yes, absolutely. And you know what? Let me also highlight, excuse me, that there are some and you may have not been here at the beginning where I said there are some parents who one is a narcissist, one isn't, but because of the strong personality of the narcissist and their character pathology, right? There's something really messed up about how they perform in life. That healthy parent can start to behave like that narcissistic parent. And it's just like this toxic system of mom and dad just being both narcissistic, or one being highly influenced by the narcissistic parent. Just making sure I'm not missing any of you. Hello, BB. Oh my God, I'm going to mess this up. It's BB Buddha Luna. I bet you I messed that up. But hello, welcome to the chat. I'm signing off in literally 2 minutes. But welcome to the chat. Hello, V. Welcome to the chat. Says hello. Excuse me. He says hello to the hopefully soon to get all the need and well-deserved relaxation, rest, and recuperation. Tam and the Tam fam. Thank you for all the love, V. Thank you for that. Okay, SH says, oops, yes, the three E's. Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who may have forgotten, the three E's was no empathy, entitlement, and exploitation. So no empathy, entitlement, and exploitation. The three E's. And that's usually what characterizes these kind of parents. Darth Jar Jar 10, hello, welcome to the chat, says, doesn't this inability or tendency to argue have something to do with triggers? Joined the chat late, so might have missed when this was covered. Okay, let me go back over that, Darth Jar Jar 10. Doesn't this inability or tendency to argue Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm distracted by like 9 or 10 comments. Darth Jar Jar 10 says, doesn't this inability or tendency to argue have something to do with triggers? Explain that to me, Darth Jar Jar 10. Can you give me a little bit of background? I'll answer your question before I sign off. Luna, yes, I thought that was you. She says, I got it right. I thought that was you. I'm like, what? What? Who is baby Buddha Luna? Oh yeah, Cherry's Jubilee. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool? Um, I'll reach sheer Darth Jar Jar 10. If you get back to me before I send off here in like a minute, I'll go ahead and answer that question for you. But Sheer Hafen says, my kids continue to try and figure out this dynamic, then blame themselves if not directly accused by family or parents. It sounds like a really like it sounds like a mixed bowl of confusion, Sheer. That's what it sounds like to me. And toxicity everywhere you turn. That's what I get. Excuse me. Thank you, Darth Jar Jar 10 says, so I have narc family members, and no matter what I do, I fall into arguing with them, even though they are an identified trigger. Okay, so here's what I say. Yes, triggers is a big thing that happens within that parent-child relationship. You have a parent with a character pathology, you're triggered the wrong way, something, triggers you, you start reacting, you fall into an argumentative mode with them. That is typical. So here's what happens. The narcissistic parent can sometimes be very intentional. They know that they trigger you. They know that if they say A, B, C, or D, it's going to set you off. Once you're set off, then they can release themselves from the argument. This is not all parents with the character pathology. This is just a select group of them, okay? They back out of the argument and they say, you know what? You have anger issues. Something's really wrong with you. I don't know why you get so angry. Or they run over here to your sister, for example, or grandma or grandpap or aunt Kelsey and talks about you. And then they triangulate, right? They create this triangle where you're in that triangle as the problem. They're the victim. And then there's another set of family members over there hanging out, looking at you negatively, right? So if the parent is very intentional, if the parent is very intentional, then they can try to set you off. They know what to say, they know what to do. Once you're set off, they leave that argument and then they run over here and talk about you and try to look like they're the victim. Happens all the time, right? Or what they will do is they will trigger you and then they will try to kind of like excel above you in anger. And then before you know it, both of you are like yelling at each other. And it's like this match between two dragons, there's fire here and fire there and kaboom. And then everything just gets so messed up. An argument with a narcissist is never peaceful. Keep that in mind. An argument with a narcissist is never peaceful. I've had narcissistic supervisors. I've had narcissistic friends. I've had narcissistic family members. Let me just throw that out there. And so my experience in all three of those scenarios has been you're never going to win an argument with a narcissist. They're either going to play chess with you, okay, or they're going to trigger you, or they're going to play it nice and then go behind your back and talk about you and try to create some chaos over there, right? So an argument with a narcissist is never peaceful. All right. I'm going to leave it at that. I see all of you still asking questions and commenting. I could stay on here with you all night. I really can't. I can't. So I'm going to either answer your comments in the comments section. Hello, Raymond Garcia Jr. Hello, welcome to the chat. I have not seen you in a while, so glad to see you tonight. I'm actually signing off, but there's the replay and there's a video on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. So, visit me then. Thank you so much, SH. I'm going to go home now and maybe drink the rest of this and some tea. Thank you so much, guys. You're welcome, Darth Jar Jar 10. You're welcome. Thank you so much, guys, for coming to this live chat, being so patient. I'm going to get better with my timing. I feel like I shouldn't keep you waiting for over 10 minutes. So I apologize for that. I will see you guys in the next live chat. I'll be in the chat box on Sunday if you want to ask me questions or we can talk there. Love you guys so much. I always tell you that, but I really and honestly do. Thank you for your support. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.